handy dandy list that I have right here to keep me on track so I don't ramble on and on too much about bread and sourdough and all the things that I absolutely love. And I think that you guys can probably feel the passion of this bread situation in me, right? So let's talk about a couple of things. All right, I have my established starter. That means it's bubbly, it's rising, it's baking breads and all kinds of stuff. Now what do I do with it? Do I have to feed it as much? What can I get away with? The first thing you can go ahead and do is that once you have your established starter, you can actually get rid of your cloth and stuff like this. That way it's already grabbed all the wild yeast that it needs. It's already doing its job every day of being bubbly. I don't really care if it's doubling in size. That's not that important to me. I just need the bubbles and like the reaction and the smell, the tangy aroma that's going on. So you can go ahead and get rid of your cloth that you're using, whatever that may be, and you're gonna go ahead and start putting on the hard lids. This way just kind of helps with mold and dust and stuff like that, and keeps it a little cleaner. So I will go ahead and start putting this hard lid on top of this guy, because we have moved on from the starter and the elbow deep of discard that we always have, because we have it established now, which is wonderful. The second thing is great idea to do about every other week is to actually get a new clean jar. So I will, because it starts to get gunky, especially this the first one that we did with all-purpose flour, the new starter. It gets so crusty and built up because you're just making a beautiful paper mache volcano out of this every single day, right? So you want to go ahead and every day, I actually wipe it clean every time, but it's still, you just can't get that off because that's what it does. So about every other week, get a new jar to move it into. When you go to feed or discard that morning, just go ahead and discard half into your container to your fridge, and the other half will go into a new clean jar. You fill it and feed it just like you normally would, and then keep moving on. And do that about every other week, because you will get, it gets nasty sometimes, and we don't want to risk killing the starter. Even though by this time, I would like for you guys to have your established starters, which is the dehydrated one, and one in the fridge as well. You can click on the link down below for for that video as well to make sure you understand and have already did that for yourself. So we want to get a hard lid. We want to get a new clean jar every other week, just so it doesn't get funky. Okay, so let's talk about how often do you actually have to feed this bad boy. Now, I will admit I will skip a day like every 4 or 5 days, just because I didn't feel like doing anything with it. I ran out of time for the day. I know that I can get away with it. However, if you go more often of skipping like that, you risk losing your starter. You will make a very sluggish starter too, because it didn't know that you were coming back to feed it, so it might just literally peter out and do nothing for you. So you want to kind of go ahead and make sure that you are pretty good about feeding it every day. If you are not baking with your sourdough like a couple times a week, where you end up with way too much discard in your fridge because you're not actually baking with it, then I would suggest going ahead and putting it to sleep until you are able to kind of go ahead and start baking with that. So you can get away with skipping some days here and there, but you will also pay the consequences of having a sluggish starter if you don't keep up on the feeding of it. Okay, another one. Well, I guess that kind of goes along with, like, you get what you put in, right? You get the outcome you get of your bread is the amount that you put in. And another thing to think about too is if you see those jars on Instagram while you're scrolling, and the algorithm has shown you a boatload of bread people and stuff like that, right? I'm one. They have these massive sized jars. The lids are literally overspilling and stuff like that. I'm not sure who those people are. I don't know if they're micro bakery people that are baking like on a massive scale. For your home scale, for your family, even if it's like a family of 2 to 5, 10 or something like that, you don't need that much starter going on. A quart jar works just fine. For my family of 10, it can work for more that as well, because I don't really feed him that much. I can get 2 bread items out of him every single day if I wanted to do that by feeding him about a cup of flour, And then by the time I go ahead at nighttime to go ahead and make the things, I've got 1.5 cups to 2 cups of starter that I can pull from there that I can make a couple of recipes. So that's why you can see that only a quart jar is really needed. And you don't have to feed it 3 cups of flour unless you want to bake 6 loaves of bread or something like that. So the more you feed it, the more you need to bake with it. If you don't want to bake 5 loaves of bread tonight or whatever tomorrow, then don't feed it 5 cups of flour. Go ahead and just feed it a 1/2 cup of flour, a cup of flour, until you find your rhythm within your family, within your time frame. I'm giving you that permission to go ahead and break those rules where you don't have to feed it exactly what everyone else says. Just to give you enough that you're baking with it to use this guy, and then you're not ending up with, like a ton in the fridge, because what are you going to do with that? There's only so many recipes, and it's not as healthy for you as if you can just go ahead and use this wonderful Bubbly active starter to create some kind of bread product. So what you put in is what you get out, so be careful on how that is. And plus those ones where they're doubling and it's literally like exploding out like they're paper mache volcanoes, that doesn't really happen. I don't know if that was a certain timing that they're doing it, or again, if they're feeding it 5 cups of flour and that's what happens. I don't have that problem, and I don't need to have that problem because I don't need to have the mess, right? And I know that all my starter is working wonderfully because I'm getting fantastic loaves of bread and pizza and everything else that I don't need to go ahead and look at all fancy and explosion like. So all I need is a quart jar, and I feed it almost every single day. So just find your groove within the sourdough world. Don't follow me, listen to me, but don't follow anybody. No, I'm kidding. No, everyone has their own little takes, and that's the thing about it. There's 10 ways to Sunday. There's like 1,000 ways to do sourdough. So just find your groove and how it works with your kitchen and your family and what you guys are feeding, and not, and if you're getting too much discard, then look at cutting back of the actual feeding of this guy over here. Let's see. All right, so another thing I wanted to say is when you are pulling out your starter to make your loaves of bread or whatever you're doing, you can actually just leave a tablespoon of it left in here. I have gone and taken, like seriously, like most of it out of the jar itself. So don't be too afraid, like if you just need that little bit more, you can go ahead and just leave a tablespoon of starter in there. It's all around the sides of the edges and stuff like that. That's all it needs. There's enough yeast in there. You feed it again, it's gonna come back and you're gonna get plenty. So go ahead and just leave a tablespoon if you need to. All right, so now let's talk about the cold ferment versus long and short ferment, and I'm probably going to start getting on a little high horse about this situation. So my favorite thing about sourdough is the health benefits. I've talked about this in all of my videos, and I'm very passionate about the health benefits of how sourdough works, especially when you're milling your grains and stuff like that. But sourdough in general, it's breaking down all that phytic acid that go ahead and make it easier so that we can have bread. Bread is life. Bread is for all the people. Bread independence, amazing stuff, right? So there are these recipes out there that are discard recipes. They just throw the label in there, and then they add in yeast, your manufactured yeast. I don't want manufactured yeast. That's not the point of that. I want it to be this natural yeast of doing its bubbly job to go ahead and rise it. Yes, you have to have lots of patience with sourdough, right? You have to build that starter and get it established. But I would recommend to shy away from any of those recipes that say, hey, let's do sourdough and then let's add in our manufactured yeast recipe. I'm just going to call that a farce, and I don't like it at all. So I have never done one of those recipes. I purposely will not do one of those recipes because I'm not sure what the point is. It's not really sourdough. First of all, you don't get the time to get the tang in the bread itself, even if you like it or don't like it. Second of all, you're not getting any of the benefits. Third of all, then you're using manufactured yeast that I don't like. So those are the reasons why I shy away from that. And then there's another thing that I also not refuse to do, but not like to do. There's a lot of the discard recipes out there where you end up using, they call for a 1/4 cup, a 1/2 cup of your starter, whatever level it's at. And then you add in your 3 cups of flour, and you add in baking powder and baking soda and stuff like that. And then you bake something right away. That little half a cup of starter and that 10-minute time frame that it took for you to whip up whatever it was is not actually breaking down that new flour that you added into the recipe. So I see this all the time, and it happened to me in the beginning as well, because you have all that discard at first, so you're just searching for these recipes to get rid of discard and stuff like that. And at first, when you're going through those couple of weeks starting it, I understand that part. I'm not mad at that part, because you actually have to use up that discard, right? You got to use it up. But if you're already got your established starter, I suggest not following those type of recipes anymore, because you want to allow that time to go ahead and ferment the new grains that you put in. So that's why I make everything at nighttime. I cover it in stainless steel bowls with a lid that comes with lids. I'll put a link down below. I love them. They work good. I set them on my counter, and then on each bowl I usually put the printout of one of my recipes, so then I kind of keep track of, like, oh, I just did 3 bowls. Now what was what? I can usually tell by in the morning, but sometimes it helps to just kind of keep track, especially if you're busy and scattered brain like I am. I like to just kind of do that. So I stack my bowls. They sit overnight. And then I come in the morning, and that's usually when you have to shape something out, like bagels or pizza or something like that. So I like to get that long ferment. There's also the option that you could do it as a cold ferment to even do it even longer. Say, oh, like I've done this. I have made the recipe the night before, woke up in the morning, and something happened, and I couldn't actually finish it. I don't want it to go get to overproof or anything like that, where I can't even, it's gone through all its bubbles, there's nothing I can do about it. I will go ahead and put it in the fridge until the next day or something like that. That's also a cold ferment. So if I have a long ferment on the counter, has a long cold ferment as well. There's the cold ferment that I do with my artisan loaves, because I don't want them to get too, again, that's the same, I don't want them to get too big. I already worked with that dough all day long. I've shaped it, I put it in my bowl, and I put it in the fridge overnight. Then that next morning, I pull it out while my oven is preheating my thing to cook it in, drawing a blank, and then I go ahead and score it and get it baked. So that's like a cold ferment that I like to do with artisan loaf. But any of my other recipes are generally just on the counter, getting that long ferment. It's breaking down those gluten structures and the grains and the phytic acid, and making it more able for my body to go ahead and absorb the nutrients from the flours and stuff like that, and make it easier on my whole gut and everything to do everything that it needs to do. So I do get on a high horse, like I said, but there are reasons for that, and I have seen this time and time again, where you start with sourdough and you are super passionate and excited, and I absolutely love that. But I think that some people start to forget exactly, why are we doing sourdough? Is it just because like it seems cool and everyone else is doing it? Like, let's look at why we're actually doing the sourdough. It's for the health benefits. It's to feed our family awesome bread and all different types of forms. So I shy away from the short fermented things, and I shy away for sure from anything that adds the manufactured yeast. Now, I'm not saying I don't actually make bread with manufactured yeast, but I'm not going to waste my time with my sourdough or call it sourdough if I'm making something with yeast. There's no point to use this. I'll just use my bread maker or my KitchenAid and make. I've got lots of recipes on there. If you're done with sourdough, with everything I have sourdough, I have almost the same thing for a regular, with a manufactured yeast. So I don't hate the manufactured yeast. I just typically don't want to do that because I like the benefits of the sourdough. But sometimes I'm in a pinch, or the husband requests something special, and I will oblige him sometimes because I am nice. I will go ahead and make it something like that as well. So I think either I annoyed the crap out of you, you didn't listen this far, or you're like, yeah, girl, get it. Let me know. Let me know what you think. If that helped to explain, what this whole sourdough thing is. All right, I think I am good with talking about everything that for your sourdough maintenance. You're going to feed. What you put in is what you get out, so keep that in mind. Adjust how much you're feeding your little guy on the counter according to what you and your family needs, and then go from there. So you don't have to have a big thing, you don't have to have a small thing. You can figure out what floats for your family. So thank you for being here. This will also accompany a blog post and go along in my sourdough course and everything like that. So appreciate you. Go bread, and I'll see you at the next video.